Good morning to you all. Today is September 20th, 2021. What does it mean for the United States this day, September 20th, 2021? It's just another day. And that's what it is here. But in Canada, it is a federal election that's going on today. That's right. The people of Canada are going to go and vote in their individual ridings. And ridings in Canada are what we call congressional districts here, or in Great Britain, they're called constituencies. And so that's what they're going to do today in Canada. Now, the current government of Canada is headed by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And I'm mixed on my opinions on Justin Trudeau. Is Canada better off with Justin Trudeau's government than, let's say, a Tory government? Yeah, I guess. The problem with Justin Trudeau is when I look around through my American perspective, my American lens, if you will. When I see Justin Trudeau, I think of Berto O'Rourke. I think of Pete Buttigieg. I think of Barack Obama. And what I'm basically saying is, when I see Justin Trudeau, I see a centrist that's kind of that flirts with political correctness and lack substance. The making of typical modern American style Democrat. That's how I see Justin Trudeau. So you probably know that I'm not particularly keen on Justin Trudeau at this point. But I am going to describe you the Canadian House of Commons. They had 338 seats. And currently, the Liberal Party, headed by Justin Trudeau, is the largest political party majority in the Parliament currently. The Liberal Party in Canada is basically, and I've said this before, if I'm going to compare them to the American political system, I'll say that the Liberal Party in Canada is a less shitty version of the Democratic National Committee here in the United States. So, and that's headed by Justin Trudeau. The Conservative Party, nicknamed the Tories in Canada, they have currently 119 seats in the House of Commons. The Liberals have 155. The Conservatives have 119, and it's headed by Erin O'Toole. To briefly describe the Conservative Party of Canada, they're basically a less shitty version of the Republican National Committee here in the United States. That's basically the difference. Then you got Quebec de Bloc. I guess that's what they're called. They're basically a separatist party wanting Quebec to become an independent country. It's headed by Yves Francois Blanchet, and I'm sorry for butchering the name. I'm planning to visit Quebec at some point. I've always wanted to visit Montreal, and that day's going to happen. Hopefully next year will happen. Quebec de Bloc, 32 seats currently in the Canadian House of Commons. They're kind of a social democratic party, but they're more concerned with Quebec succession than social democracy or democratic socialism. They do occupy the spot for people with my kind of politics if I lived in Quebec, and if the other official social democratic party, the NDP, was not impressive in my area, or if I had a problem with the NDP, I would look seriously into Quebec, the Quebec the Bloc party. Then there is the New Democratic Party of Canada. Currently 24 seats in the Canadian House of Commons. And the leader of the party is Jagmeet Singh. Now, to describe this party through an American lens, picture the squad, picture Bernie Sanders, and picture a lot of the growing progressive movement in the United States that are to the left of the mainstream Democrats, whether they're in the Democratic Party or they're independent politics. I would say in explicitly socialist terms. Imagine if Democratic Socialists of America, the Socialist Party USA, Social Democrats USA, Solidarity, committees of correspondence, even the Communist Party USA, all these folks, the left that uses either the Social Democratic banner, the Socialist banner, or even the Communist banner, and they're all three kind of different, but it's in a broad left wing family tree of sorts. These people would configure themselves in the new Democratic Party of Canada, and maybe some very, very left wing mainstream Democrats would do the same. So, I mean, in other words, the NDP, people like Elizabeth Warren, I would say maybe Elizabeth Warren, definitely Bernie Sanders, definitely the squad, people like that would be in the NDP in Canada if they were to live in Canada, that sort of thing. They have, as I said, 24 seats in the House of Commons. You have the Green Party, only 2 seats in the House of Commons, headed by Anna Paul, believes that's the name, and so that's the makeup of the Canadian House of Commons as far as I know right now, and so there is, as I said, there's a federal election today, and those are the main parties. And they're smaller parties. They're hoping to get a seat, which I don't think is likely to happen. I don't think it's likely to happen at all. But they have a better chance of breaking through the system than a third party here in the United States would, because the United States, we're an entrenched 2-party system. And unfortunately, it's going to stay that way. It will eventually change. I know that day's going to come, but it's not coming anytime soon. So, let me describe my political allegiances as an American, looking at Canada politically through my American lens. First of all, if I lived in Canada right now as we speak, if I was a resident of Canada, ready to vote in Canada today, I would vote for the New Democratic Party, the NDP. The NDP is the political party I prefer in Canadian politics above all else. Are they perfect? No political party in the world is perfect. But as far as my politics and my core values are concerned and everything, my politics coincide with the values of the NDP more than anybody else. Because their history is parallel to that of the old Socialist Party of America. Tommy Douglas, in the past, is to Canadian politics what Eugene Victor Debs and Norman Thomas and Michael Harrington would be here in the United States in many, many ways. So I'm going to give you a brief history of this political party, the NDP. In 1932, a group of progressives, socialists, trade unionists, farmers formed a political party called the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, the CCF. It was called the Regina Manifesto, that was created in Saskatchewan, and this political party became the first elected political party government in the Western Hemisphere in 1944 with the election of the Tommy Douglas premiership in Saskatchewan. And from 1944 to, I guess, the time he left, I don't know when he left, but he ended up in the Parliament, in the House of Commons eventually. But the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation initiated a series of reforms that was similar to FDR's New Deal in the United States. and his province created the federal this provincial insurance system that would become Medicare in Canada eventually, because it worked so well in Saskatchewan. Other provinces started to pick it up, their own version, and then eventually it became the federal Medicare system as we know it today. And if we're ever going to have a system similar to Canada, that's probably how we're going to end up with that system. That certain states are probably going to eventually create their own versions of that, and then eventually the United States federal government will cement it. That'll be that'll be one way that could be done. I hope that we get that system, and I hope we go beyond the Canadian system. I hope we get a National Health Service like it is in Great Britain, because the National Health Service is actually more socialistic than the Canadian system. And the Canadian system is sort of like a cross between the American profit system and the British socialist medical system. And they still have a profit motive system, and private hospital, private doctor practices in Canada like it is here, but they have federal insurance, basically a Medicare insurance system that covers pretty much 100% of the population, whereas the United States is still backwards, and the last industrialized democracy to develop a universal healthcare system. Shame on the United States in that regard. The CCF changed its name in 1961 to the New Democratic Party of Canada. The name that they're stuck with to this day. And the NDP is either the third largest or fourth largest political party, depending on the election cycle. And they were actually officially the opposition several years ago, during the last Tory government of Stephen Harper. But the thing about Canada is that the NDP is the political party that's the conscience of Canada. Canada is a better place in many ways than the United States, because they have Medicare for all. Their trade unions are much stronger than we are down here. They could be stronger. I know that they're weak compared to, let's say, the Nordic countries, but compared to they're in far better shape than we are here in the United States. There is no death penalty in Canada, and Canada tends to stay out of foreign wars these days. And it's not because that they have NDP federal governments governing Canada on nationwide and operating their foreign policy abroad. Is that in order for Tories and Liberals to stay out of wars abroad, they understand that the NDP can get street activists out into the street and kind of really scare the hell out of the mainstream politicians. So they're a little more apprehensive about doing things as fucked up as Democrats and Republicans like to do here in the United States. And that's because we don't have a strong third party that's scared the shit out of the Democrats and Republicans. And I really do believe that. So as I said, Tommy Douglas is more or less the Eugene Debs, the Norman Thomas, the Michael Harrington of Canada in many ways. His grandson is an actor that you may have heard of by the name of Kiefer Sutherland. And Kiefer Sutherland, let's say this. Kiefer Sutherland actually, give me a moment. Kiefer Sutherland talks about Tommy Douglas. My goodness. Okay. Yeah, he talks about Tommy Douglas. And give me a moment here. It's called Mouseland, and it's the most well-known story. So I think that we're going to play Tommy Douglas's, Kiefer Sutherland talking about Tommy Douglas and the story of Mouseland itself, and share some words afterwards. So be patient and enjoy.
Hi, my name is Kiefer Sutherland. Many of you may know me as an actor, But there's something in my background that you may not know, something which I am very proud of. I am also a grandson of the late Tommy Douglas, a premier who brought an enormous change to Saskatchewan and the rest of Canada. He was also the first leader of the New Democratic Party. Using his voice in a recording that he had made in 1962, we'd like to share a story with you, a story that he made famous as early as 1940. It's a story of a place called Mouseland, and it's as important today as it was many years ago. It's not just a piece of history, it's really one of the best explanations you'll ever hear about why Canadians like you and me support the New Democrats. The NDP and the members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union across Canada are proud to present this animated version of Mouseland. It's a message worth preserving for generations to come and for current generations. So please join me now as my grandfather takes us to a place that he called Mouseland.
It's a story of a place called Mouseland. Mouseland was a place where all the little mice lived and played, were born and died, and they lived much as you and I do. They even had a parliament. And every 4 years they had an election. They used to walk to the polls and cast their ballots. Some of them even got a ride to the polls. Got a ride for the next 4 years afterwards, too. Just like you and me. And every time on election day, all the little mice used to go to the ballot box and they used to elect a government. A government made up of big, fat, black cats. Now, if you think it's strange that mice should elect a government made up of cats, you just look at the history of Canada for the last 90 years, and maybe you'll see that they weren't any stupider than we are. Now, I'm not saying anything against the cats. They were nice fellows. They conducted the government with dignity. They passed good laws. That is, laws that were good for cats. But the laws that were good for cats weren't very good for mice. One of the laws said that mouse holes had to be big enough so a cat could get his paw in. Another law said that mice could only travel at certain speeds so that a cat could get his breakfast without too much physical effort. All the laws were good laws for cats. But oh, they were hard on the mice. And life was getting harder and harder. And when the mice couldn't put up with it anymore, they decided something had to be done about it. So they went en masse to the polls. They voted the black cat out. And they put in the white cat. The white cat had put up a terrific campaign. They said all that Mouseland needs is more vision. They said the trouble with Mouseland is those round mouse holes we've got. If you put us in, we'll establish square mouse holes. And they did. And the square mouse holes were twice as big as the round mouse holes. And now the cat would get both his paws in. And life was tougher than ever. And when they couldn't take that anymore, they voted the white cats out and put the black ones in again. And then they went back to the white cats and then to the black cats. They even tried half black cats and half white cats. And they called that coalition. They even got one government made up of cats with spots on them. They were cats that tried to make a noise like a mouse, but they ate like a cat. You see, my friends, the trouble wasn't with the color of the for cats instead of mice. Presently there came along one little mouse who had an idea. My friends, watch out for the little fellow with an idea. And he said to the other mice, look, fellas, why do we keep on electing a government made up of cats? Why don't we elect a government made up of mice? Oh, they said he's a Bolshevik. Lock him up. So they put him in jail. But I want to remind you that you can lock up a mouse or a man, but you can't lock up an idea.
As my grandfather would have wanted, the message of Mouseland is for all the people of Canada. We hope you have enjoyed this production, and we hope that it has left you with something to think about. Thanks to this short film, I think that Tommy Douglas's words have as much life and meaning today as when he first spoke them. Thank you very much for joining me.
Okay. Let me get rid of that. Okay. All right, I'm back. And I want to talk. I want to thank Joshua Hunt for being here. Greetings. Also, want to say thank you for your support for the New Democratic Party. You've chosen very, very wisely. And looks like we have another NDP supporter here. Cool. And thank you for your support for the NDP. Let's see, Sheep Matters. Yep. Thank you. And let me give you my personal experience with the NDP. Do you see this right here? This peace pen? This peace pen, and I wear it occasionally on this program, was given to me by the late Jack Layton, the NDP leader. He was not the leader of the NDP yet. This was in 2003 at the NDP Federal Leadership Convention in Toronto, and I attended it as an observer, as an international observer. I flew to Toronto, and I went and attended the Federal Leadership Convention, and enjoyed my my nice little weekend in Canada. And not only was I able to enjoy fellowship with fellow socialists with the New Democratic Party, I met some of the members of Parliament. I met Sven Robinson. I met Bill Blakely. I met at least his name was Joe Co-Martin. I met Alexandra McDonough. At least her name. She was the previous leader of the NDP. And I met Jack Layton, who was not elected to the House of Commons yet, but I met him at the convention that he would become leader of the NDP. And I even hung out with a group of Trotskyists in the NDP convention called the NDP Socialist Caucus. And I like talking to Bev Meslov, who was one of the candidates running for the leadership of the NDP at that time. I was the one person I met I wasn't too particularly keen on was Lauren Nystrom from Saskatchewan. That guy, he's very third way leaning from my perspective, and if he would have won, the NDP would have probably ended up being something like New Labour under Tony Blair. So I am glad that Lauren Nystrom was rejected. And how many Americans throw around these names in casual conversations? Probably not too many. So, but the point is, I was there, and I in the NDP Federal Leadership Convention was not just a battle of ideas of which way the NDP is supposed to go, but this was just before the Iraq War, and it was also pretty much an anti-war rally too as well. So I'm sure that's going to trigger many American right wings. Oh, he went into a foreign country to protest our president, George W. Bush. Yeah, sure did. Damn right. Do it again. I would do it again. I also, at that convention, I purchased this little nice item. It was Mouseland, and that's my mouse pad I use when I go and go online. I use my little mouse pad, and it was my admiration for the NDP and its predecessor, the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation. Now, I don't know how this election is going to turn out today. But, the thing is that Canada, as long as the NDP remains relevant in Canada, Canada's going to be in very good hands. And I wish nothing but the best for the NDP. And I hope that one day that the NDP will form a federal government. But at the same time, the NDP, even where they're at right now, during their better times and even their worse times, ironically, they're always going to be in better shape than the American left. The American left is such disarray, and I have told many of my fellow Americans we can learn from the NDP. We need to have something like the New Democratic Party of America here in the United States, and so while I do vote third party a majority of the time, and I will support the occasional Democrat, who I think is worth a damn. I think that in order for the American left to have a viable future, it's going to have to be with an independent party. It's going to have to be some kind of a labor party akin to something like the New Democratic Party of Canada, because the Democrats are, as I said, are a shittier version of the Liberal Party in Canada. They're to the right of the Liberals, and the Republican Party they're way to the right of the Canadian Tories. So here in the United States, the Overton window shifts so far to the right that currently in the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, fighting to lower Medicare eligibility to the age of 60 is considered a radical position. That is our Overton window, when really the radical position, if you want to call it a radical position, should be National Health Service. Lowering Medicare eligibility to 60 should be the right-wing position. And doing nothing about health care should be considered an extremist position to denounce with full fervor. And a moderate position, when I define moderate, meaning your generic Republican and your generic Democrat could come together to say, single payer, Medicare for all, eliminate private health insurance, and that should be the sensible middle ground position. Unfortunately, we don't work with that kind of logic here in the United States. We work in an ass-backwards way, and it's just the way it is, unfortunately. So, I wish the NDP very well in this election, and I will conclude by saying, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, well, that's fine. Just comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Also, feel free to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Making a little side announcement. I haven't posted anything on Twitch yet, but I have a Twitch account. I'm called AmerricanSocDem on Twitch. I will leave a link down there. I don't know when I'm going to do my first official video on Twitch, but I will, hopefully in the near future I will have something up there as well. But anyway, until next time, the best of luck to the New Democratic Party of Canada. I wish you well. I love y'all at the NDP. Y'all my kind of people. And until next time, peace, class struggle, and for a socialist victory tonight in Canada. Long live the NDP.